Hello world! How have you all been doing? Welcome back to my stream, and welcome to the chat also, know us or very. One nice, hello, hey, how are you doing? What's so nice? The Pokemon game, or was it? Also, I want to thank quickly a few people who have been following me in the meantime since the last stream. That's C.S. William, thank you for following. Then Ver Ureo, thank you for following. And Johnny Mad Dog, thank you for following as well. So with that round of thank yous, now let's get to the topic of the stream. So in this stream, I am planning to continue my work on the open focus timer. But before I get to really the features, and this is the summary of the last stream, before I get to the features that we want to continue working on, like showing the main feature, start implementing sidebar, etc. So those are like UI features. I actually want to go a step back and make this project work better for the community, for like an open source app, by setting up a few things that I think are important for, especially for apps that are open source, because people are gonna wanna contribute to it. And when many people contribute to one project, it's important that you have some things in place that make sure that the styling of the code and things like that are proper. And there are a few things I want to do in this stream. Before I get to that, quickly a reminder that I have a blog on Medium, jihad.medium.com, and I am currently writing the second part of the streaming open source development. It's nearly finished, so I expect to release it sometime today or tomorrow, so that should be out soon. But that's like what we're going to do today. First, I'm going to start with applying what I already shared in this tweet online. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, make sure at twitter.com/jihad as well. And basically what this is about is a file called git attributes. And as you can see, you can basically specify to GitHub which folders and which files you don't want to be counted as part of the language statistics. And this can be important if you want the language statistics to look right, because I had it in the past that I had, for example, a Swift project, and then GitHub showed it as like a HTML project or something like that, because I had some configuration files with a lot of lines of code somewhere that were not related, or documentation files. Oh, nice, didn't know, yeah. And that's basically how you teach GitHub how that works, and I'm going to apply this basically in the open focus timer, so everybody watching this can also learn how to do that. Next, we're going to, this is going to be Swift specific, so not very useful to you, Larry. But next I'm going to apply Swift format, which is Apple's official formatter. This is for code styling formatting. And I already have that in the project, but the configuration file I have right now is very old. I had created it some time ago, and I just copied and pasted it to this project. And what I want to do here is basically copy and paste the whole configuration file with all the different rules that they have right now, and set it up that it works for my needs. There were also a few things on the old configuration file that I didn't like, so I'm going to change that as well. And last but not least, there is this most popular linter right now in the Swift community. It's SwiftLint, with lots of rules. It has really many rules. And I am actually going to apply all of them and turn them off step by step to basically have as many rules as I want to have that fits with my needs. And yeah, I'm guessing that this all together could already take the whole stream. I hope not, but you never know how many warnings you get, and yeah, there might be many, and then we have to fix them all. I don't want to have any warnings in my project, at least not warnings from linters. Warnings that I create myself as to-dos, they are fine, but no linter warnings. So I'm going to set this all up and make sure also that I can't even commit if there's a single warning. And that's the topic for today's stream. And if we finish that, we're going to continue with these points here. So let me copy them so we can create a new summary document for today's stream. How are you, Wary, by the way? How are you doing? Are you gonna stream today again, like last week? Open focus timer part 16. Quarantine, oh no! So you're infected yourself or someone close to you? I guess someone close to you if you're considering streaming. But I hope you're good. When I got COVID, it took like 3 weeks until I recovered. My boyfriend got his positive test yesterday. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, then you're high risk. So I'm waiting for it to kick in. Yeah, true. It's very likely that you're going to get it then. Oh, a Pokemon appeared. Let me see if I can catch it. But I think I had it already. Possible. I mean, 80% of people don't notice and it just passes by, right? Yeah, I hope so. You'll be fine. Great. So these are the 3 things, and I want to add the new things we want to do. We want to actually do the get attributes thing. Apply get attributes. Then we want to apply and change config of Swift format, and the same with SwiftLint. I noticed really badly 2 weeks ago, but tests were negative, so I don't know. I actually, when I got infected, the issue was I used a test that you can use in your mouth. So you just put it like at the back of your mouth and you just wiggle around for a minute. And when I tested it that way, it was like written on the paper, you should do it that way. And I did it that way and it was always negative. And then my wife, who's basically working in a PCR test center, so she really does the tests all the time, she just, without reading the paper, she just took that thing and put it in her nose. And because she does it that way all the time, and hers was then positive. And basically, we learned that the test, even though it's specified, you can use it from your mouth. If you use it from your nose, it just gets more, yeah, it just works better then. Although it was, yeah, documented differently. I heard that actually in a TV show that some virologist basically said that it's always better to get it from the nose because you just have more there. And you should also like do before you get that. And then I did it that way from the nose, and it was immediately positive. So that's how I learned that I don't know, I thought it's a cold or something, but it's really harsh cold. That it was COVID. Yeah, it depends on the test. I normally use the nose ones, but I still don't trust them. I think if you're infectious, so if you're so much infected that you're infectious yourself and you can infect other people, then I'm guessing that it's probably going to be positive. At least if you test it like multiple times on multiple days, it should be positive at least once. If you do it right, of course. But let's get back on topic. So these are the few things I want to do today. Yeah, let's get right to it. So let me open this. And we just start with this here, and just in case somebody is interested in that tweet and wants to click the link there, let me share that. So that's the tweet link, and basically the link that is relevant here is this one, which is the documentation, and basically how this language statistic. So let me first get to the language statistic, what I'm talking about. Let me just open the project on GitHub. So I don't expect many problems with this statistics. And I'm talking about this here. And as you can see, it says 99.8% Swift and then 0.2% shell language, which is because I have this shell script here. And that is about correct. But I just want to make sure that it stays correct. And also even this might not be correct because I think we do have some generated code here. So if I look into sources and I go to resources, yeah, you can see, for example, this is a third vendor code. And this is not right. And also these asset files, they are being generated. That's not much code right now, but it might get more over time. And you can see we have also these strings here. And this is all generated. This is not code we wrote. So I don't want this to be part of statistics. And there might be other things later as well. Some people actually prefer to commit their library dependencies into their repository. In that case, you absolutely want to do this get attributes thing to ignore them so it doesn't meddle with your statistics. For example, you have like an Objective-C library that you're using in your app, then it looks like you're actually working with Objective-C also, although you might not. And that's why this is relevant. And it's also not hard to set up. It's a file like this. So let's just do this. And this is documentation. And it basically states that you need to add a .get attributes file, and you have these different things you can mark them as. So you basically specify the file or the folder and files. And you can basically after that say which kind of thing it is. And the kind of things are these here. And what we need mostly is when we have something from a vendor, we just mark it as linguist rendered. And when we have generated code, we mark it as generated. That's the most important ones for me. And you can also correct languages sometimes. Yeah, I might not get them. Please note that there are defaults here, so you don't always have to specify them. So if I click this, for example, you'll see that they already have some logic where they exclude specific things and things like that. Here you go, like matches, etc., Carthage, etc. So you don't always need to specify this. There is some logic behind it already. But if you have like generated, I think it doesn't know like SwiftGen. Yeah, there is no SwiftGen ignoring here. So let's get to it and set this up. So I'm going to open the project in Atom. Because the dot files, they're actually not visible. And I see that I have actually done something here. Off stream, make schemes not auto-generate. Yeah, that was just a small improvement. It's not worth mentioning really. I can mention it later. But basically, I want to create a .get attributes file, so let's do that. Just new file, get attributes. And then like in my tweet, I want to document also a little bit what it's about. So it can be third-party code or generated code. Let's name it the same way, third-party code, generated code. And in the case of generated code, let's have a look at where our generated code actually lies. So if I just open this, open focus timer, I think it's under sources, resources, BartyCrouch. So this is the first, this is vendor code. It's basically for the BartyCrouch library to work. I just copy and pasted this from BartyCrouch. So it's not really my code. Let's ignore that. And a trick how I basically typically get the path to a file, I just drag and drop it to the terminal and I can just copy it from here. So it's sources / this thing here. This is one, and let's give it the right marking. So in this case, it's vendor. Oops, multiple cursors. Okay, that works better. Oh, that's not generated, that's third party. Okay, then we have also generated code, which is the SwiftGen files. So if we go into SwiftGen, everything under SwiftGen basically is generated code. So let's ignore that as well. Let's get the path. And to provide basically that you want to match all files underneath, you just say /**. And then let's make this generated code. Okay. I don't think we have much more, but let's quickly check. And the Finder, where are you? There you go. Do we have anything else that's generated? I mean, theoretically, we could also ignore these JSON files because we're not managing them ourselves. And maybe that's actually something we want to do. Let's try that. So anything that's under XE assets, and that's called contents.json, we want to ignore. So it's basically generated code, any path, and then anything dot XE assets / content.json. This is also generated code, generated by Xcode in this case. So it doesn't count content JSON, but I guess this might already be part of it. So let's check in generated if there is like XE assets. Nope, not mentioned. Is it mentioned anywhere inside this repo? Yes, it is mentioned, and it's just a test file. So, but there is something called assert sample blob, something with contents.json rendered. Okay, so there is like contents.json. See if that is already getting ignored. Update all grammar submodules. Okay, not sure, but just to be sure it is getting ignored, I'm just going to keep this. And is there anything else? Like the markdown file, we will write them ourselves, that's fine. The resolve file, I think it's not getting counted anyways. The build folder I'm expecting, I think it's not committed, so anything that's not committed is not going to show up anyways. So everything you already have in your git ignore, you don't have to put it into your git attributes because it's already not being checked into version control, so there's no chance it's getting counted. But I think that's it. Everything else we just maintain ourselves, so I think it makes sense that they are being counted, like the shell script. I could ignore it to make my app look like it's 100% Swift, but that's not the point. The point is just to ignore everything that you don't write yourself, but we do write this ourselves, so we want to keep that. I think that's it. So let's just commit this file. And this is going to make sure that we have proper, so prevent GitHub from counting generated or third-party code in stats. No, that's one too much. Prevent GitHub from counting generated or third-party. Let's just do it like this. Or we can also do it like that. Stats, yeah, that's the commit. I think we can push. And it's not going to change the statistics much. But that's it. By the way, I started reading through an ASO book. It's absolutely crazy what kind of a new world that is for me. ASO is also a topic that I'm not really into yet, because I don't have any apps out that I could like ASO optimize. ASO stands for App Store Optimization, for those who don't know. But yeah, there's nothing I can do there. But I know that from the, I mean, we are recording the App Store Tagebuch podcast, just to mention that again. The App Store Tagebuch podcast, where we talk about Apple development topics with Holger and Nico. And Nico is actually working on a lot of ASO topics right now, so he's got a lot of learnings there. If you want to learn, the next episode we're going to record it next week. And I know that he has some topics on ASO there, so you might want to listen into that in the next episode. There's going to be some learnings. Yeah, I wanted to summarize quickly here also what we did. Basically prevent GitHub, and this thing is done. Complete. Next up, Swift format. So Swift format is this tool from Apple, which is kind of an official formatter, although Apple doesn't explicitly say that it is. But as far as I remember, this is planned to be included into Swift directly at some point in the future. Right now, it's more like a community thing, and it's waiting for being evaluated if the defaults that they're using right now and things like that, if they're the best ones or the ones that they want to make officially the Swift formatting style. But this is the closest you can get right now to an official Swift formatting, and that's why I apply this to my projects. And we actually already have that, as I can show you. This file here is the basically the configuration for it, and you can see I have listed, I have provided a custom config file. And the thing is about Swift format, it has no feature that you can say I want to use the default configuration, but I want to override this one thing like line length, and I want to have my own line length. Either you use their defaults completely, or you have to customize it completely. You can't say like, please use the default with one thing. So you can't override just one or two things. And I've actually requested this feature in the Swift forum. So if you just have a look at here and you go to Swift format in the development section, I have exactly requested this feature. So I explained the problem that I just explained here, and a solution that I would like one possible solution for that. And I also said that I would be involved in implementing this myself, because I am interested in that feature exactly. But yeah, there was no buzz around this, so I'm not sure if this is the official place to ask these questions. The problem is there is no issues section, there is no discussion section on GitHub, so I just put it on the Swift forums, and I'm just going to wait a few weeks and see what happens. Maybe somebody will answer. Welcome to the stream, Gorhan Baba. Salam, Jihad, wie geht's? Gutes Gelingen, frohe Ostern. Liebe Grüße, Orhamaba. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm great. Mir geht's gut. Vielen Dank. Auch frohe Ostern. Okay. They're wishing me happy Easter. But let's get back to Swift format. And basically how you can get the default configuration though is via the command line. So you can read the documentation. It all is written here. I believe I can just search for... I like to actually explore these things via the command line itself. So if I want to know what I can do with Swift format, I just go to Swift format and run help. And then I get like the things I can run, and then you can already say dump configuration. Dump the default configuration in JSON format. That's exactly what we need. So let's do that. Dump configuration. So this is the default configuration they're using. Let me just copy and paste this. And you can already see there's so many more rules by now. So I have set this up some years ago, and I'm not getting all the new rules that were added, because basically there is no way to say, hey, I want to use the defaults with just a few things overridden. So I have to override this whole thing. So let me just copy and paste it here. And then I want to adjust this to my needs. And I already know a few things that I want to change. First, I was actually using 2 spaces, and that's something that many people are opting for, especially because it's now the default in the Swift format file. But yeah, I have my own opinion there, my own take, and most people are going to disagree with me here, because most people either opt for 2 spaces or for 4 spaces. 2 spaces has the advantage that you can fit more in one line, and you don't have to line break, you like break your line all the time, and you just fit more, especially if you have like a lot of nesting, then it can save you a lot of spaces. If you use 4 spaces, you have a better, like, because it's indented more, you have a better overview which code belongs together. So that's basically the advantage of that. And I personally used 4 and 2 spaces, and I kind of like both. Like, I like both advantages. So I asked myself, why is nobody using 3 spaces, to be honest? And I have tried it out for some time, and the only disadvantage I could see is if you have a project that it is currently in 4 spaces and your setup is set to 2 spaces, then you can always like do 2 tabs to get to the 4 spaces you need. You can't do that if you have 3 spaces as your default. But that's like the only disadvantage. And if I'm working in a 4 spaces project, I set up my Xcode anyways to like work with 4 spaces for that. You can set it up for one project specifically. So I don't see that really as a downside. And if you want to know how that works, just to show that, let me just open this project right now that we have. So you can always go to Xcode. And this is going to load a while, but I hope it works. So if you just select the app, for example, here, you can just go to the sidebar and you can just provide your preference, and Xcode will save that for this project. It doesn't work with Swift packages, but it works with Swift app projects or targets. So it will store it in your Xcode preferences, and then there's no worries with that. So I actually opt for 3 spaces here. So people are going to disagree, but yeah, this is my project, so I can do what I prefer. That's that. Then line length of 100. This used to be 80 for a long time. I don't really know why, but I saw it like being 80 in many places. Then I saw 120, which is like 80 plus 40, 120, 50% more. And this 80 to 120 thing was like with bigger screens and things like that. I think they said like, okay, let's add 50% on top of that. And this is the thing that Apple is recommending, is 100. And I personally like to use a little more wider, because I always, when I work, I have a 16-inch screen, and I have, like most people have larger screens by now, and I don't want to line break my lines all the time. So I actually want to increase this, and I'm just going to go for that rule that people were going 80 to 120, just by 50% more. I'm just going to add 50% more here, so 150. That's basically what I'm opting for. Other than that, I'm not sure if I want to change anything. Like the tab width, I don't use tabs, I use spaces, so that I don't care. I just keep it at default. I could also fix like the styling here, make it like this. But then when I dump it again and update it later, then I have to edit that too. So let's just keep it where, at the styling they have here. But other than that, I think maybe we're going to change one or two things more. But let's first see what happens if we just use this styling now. So a few things I'm going to do later after I set this up, but basically we want to have this. So one thing I don't like about that is, as you can see, I can see actually here in Xcode automatically all the files that I have in the root of my project, but I don't see invisible files that start with a dot. So in this case, the file starts with a dot, and that communicates to the system, this is an invisible file, so hide it, like a hidden file. And while I can see it here, if I just close this and I use the shortcut Command-Shift-Dot, I can make it shown here, but that doesn't work here, so I still can't see it here. And I want to see it here though, because I want to edit things from here, like right within Xcode. And to get that working, I have to rename this to make it non-invisible. So I'm just removing the dot. And because this is a JSON file, I actually prefer to have it at the .json end. So every editor, as you can see here, it's basically saying plain text right now. But if I name it to JSON, it's going to recognize, okay, this is JSON. And then I get proper formatting here. And this also helps with Xcode. So now you can see in Xcode, it's showing up here. I can see it, and it also has the right styling, because it can see it's a JSON file. So that's how I like to name it. And because I don't want to always have to provide a config file though, I'm just going to use a trick. And that's, let's reset this. I'm just going to provide a symbolic link. And for a symbolic link, let me just quickly search that. I don't always remember. Create a symbolic link, macOS. So the command for it looks like this: ln -s, and then you give the path to the original and then the path to the link you want to create. And let's exactly do that. ln -s, and then the original, in our case, is, I think we're at the root, by the way. Let's open it from fork. Now we're in Open Focus Timer. Let's copy it again. So our original is the Swift format file, and the symlink I want to create is the .swift format without the JSON ending, because this is the default path where Swift format expects the configuration file. And if I just do that, you can see here that I have now a .swift format file. It just redirects to this file, and that way I have the best of both. I can still edit everything here, and I don't have to provide a config path to the Swift format command line tool. And that's how I like to do that. So that is fixed now. Now let's get on actually with the, let's just stage them, and let's just see what happens if we now run the autocorrect. And we already have here in the build script the Swift format code, which is running Swift format recursively in the path sources, tests, open focus timer /app, package.swift file, and it basically replaces them in place. So it's not just reporting, it's already correcting. And yeah, let's just run this and see what happens with this new config file. So I have run it, and we will have many changes here. So first, we can see already it is now sorting the imports, which is great. It reduces merge conflicts. It is doing the indentation. I will remove the indentation for now, because we want to see the changes without the indentation changes first, because the indentation change is going to make the changes look like everything has changed, and it's hard to discover other issues. So let me revert that. Let me stage this part and revert, discard everything else. Let's rerun. Let's see what is changing. So sorting imports, new catch style. And this is exactly one of the things that I didn't like about my previous setting. For some reason, I set it up to require, before every keyword, it required a line break. I don't know why I did that. I think I did it accidentally, but I actually prefer this style. So I'm happy that it's basically back to that. Sorted imports. Again, the same thing. It's all sorted imports basically. Okay, so here we can see it is moving the public modifier, the access modifier, from the extension to the specific entries inside the extension. I don't really care, and if the default settings of Swift prefer this style, then I'm just going to keep that. It's also adding a public to the init. Yeah, it's just moving them down. Same thing with the else, like with the catch. Same thing here. That's it. So it's just sorting the imports and doing the catch thing. So I like these settings. I think they're not quite far away, but you can already see there's a new rule now that we can use. And that's great. And now I can actually say, okay, I'm just going to add this too. And we're just going to run it again. And now there should be even more changes. And all of them basically indenting, as you can see. And yeah, I like that. I'm just going to commit all of them. One more thing we're going to do is we're going to run this in the linter format. So instead of replacing in place, we're just going to say lint, because that shows things that it actually can't automatically fix as well. And you can see them here. So I have one here, and actually these things, I want to see them in Xcode directly. So what I'm going to do is the lint one, this one, I'm actually going to add to Xcode when I build. So whenever I build one of these, either iOS or macOS app, I want it to be run as a build phase script. So I'm just going to add a new one. I'm going to rename it to Swift format. Actually, it's written small. Let's write it exactly like it's in there. And I could just run it like this. But there is a better way, and there's also a bug in here. This will not work because I'm on a M1 Mac, and on M1 Macs, the build scripts, basically, they don't have access to the default homebrew path, and this is installed via homebrew. So this will fail, on my Mac at least. But we're going to set up also SwiftLint later, and on the documentation here, there is basically a solution. So let me just copy and apply it. You can see it's basically saying export, and it's adding the homebrew path on M1 machines. It's adding them to the paths, so we have access to Swift format in that case. So I'm just going to copy that. Also, it's checking if SwiftLint in this case is installed, and if it's not installed, it gives a warning. So for those who don't have it, they at least get a reminder, hey, maybe you should set it up. And this is exactly what we want. Let's copy that in here. Maybe reformat this a little bit. And we're going to change this to Swift format. And this is our command that we want to run. Oh, it's already applying free spaces here too. Let's do free too. And the warning, of course, is Swift format not installed. I don't like the word download from. It sounds like you can download it from GitHub, although you're using different things like Homebrew to do that. So I just say C. Now let's just link it here. C Swift format, or C here maybe. Swift format install, C here. Cool. That works for me. And maybe just C works as well. It's a bit shorter. Let's remove these. And this is basically what should make the linter now run also in our project. And let's test this out. And before I test it out, I want to add it to iOS as well. Swift format. So in either one of them, it's going to run. And even more added on that, I want it to run even before I compile my sources, because I want to see those warnings right away before I have to wait until the build has finished, which also opens the app. So I want to see them right away, and I'm going to move them up above compiled sources. So with that in place, I have the macOS app selected, and you can see currently there is no warnings. I'm going to build now. It's going to show our own warnings, which are going to look different though than the warnings that we get from Swift format. So this can take a while because we haven't built. I think I just installed Xcode update. And you can see these are our own warnings, and you can see that because they are all placed in packages, and the build script is not running in the packages, it's running in the app. And we put all our code into packages, so that's how you can quickly recognize. They're all from the packages, and now we can see in the Mac app, it's actually failing. So it's saying something doesn't work properly. I know why. So in my case, the issue is in when I open my project structure, like this is my project, and in my project I have a folder named OpenFocus Timer, and my Xcode project lives inside this folder. But our Swift format setup and everything related to that, like this symbolic link file, and also the paths that we specify in the extension here and the build script here, the paths, they are all based on the root of the project. So what we need to do is for this to work, so we need to provide Swift format, hey, please run this from the root. And to do that, let's again explore the Swift format settings, Swift format help. And for lint, we want to get a help. So for the subcommand lint, give me the help for that. And you can see I can provide a configuration file. Okay, we can't provide a path to run from, so I have to provide, in this case, I have to provide the configuration path. Okay, let's do it that way. So we are providing configuration lies within ... So this is like going one folder up. And likewise, we have to do the same here, here. In this case, we can actually get rid of something, like just app. And like this, let me rerun this. We build again. Hoping this works now. It doesn't. It says unable to read configuration of file. OpenFocus Timer couldn't be opened. The file OpenFocus Timer couldn't be opened. Maybe I have to provide it explicitly. Unable to read the file, so the format couldn't be opened because there is no such file. Okay, so this is wrong. Maybe I don't have to provide this, and I just... Yeah, I'm not sure. So what path are we in when we run this? I think we are in the path of the Xcode project. Like we are here in this path, exactly here. And our Swift format lies in here. .swift format, of course. That should work now. So there we go, it works. It's showing the exact same warnings, but now it's showing them directly in place. So instead of, if I run this again here, instead of having to look up this file, open this file, etc., I can just see it right in Xcode, and I can fix it right here. So no block comments, replace block comment with line comments, and it's inside persistence controller. Yeah, this is code generated by Apple. I'm actually going to remove this. We don't need it. So that should be fixed. Then we have, okay, this is one style that is different than I used to, but I don't really care. So if I put one, the reason I put the let here always is if I have multiple of them, like param2, param3, then I don't have to put a let in front of each of them. I just put in one, and then I have more space to use. I'm losing less characters. But if the default they prefer is for some reason to put it here, I don't really care, and I'm okay with moving it there. So let's just let's stick with the defaults here. Same here. I wonder why this doesn't get auto-corrected, because this is something that could actually be auto-corrected. And lastly here as well. Let's build again. And I don't see more linter warnings here. Let's run it from here. And we don't get any linting warnings. So now Swift format is applied in our project. It's configured. And we have also made sure to fix all warnings. And as see, I'm missing all the Pokemon that are basically in the chat. But nothing to do about that. So this is looking good to me. This is the changes we made. That's all fine. So one last thing to note is whenever I commit, I have a pre-commit hook. So I have set this up under .git/hooks/precommit, and make sure if you do this to make this file executable by running chmod +x and then the path to the file. That makes it an executable. And this is already done by me, so it's basically just running build script, and this is yet another shell script. And in this, I am basically running the command that I have just run also here. So, but in this case, it's just running the replacement command, but I also want to run the linter command. So I'm just going to run lint instead of replacing, because the linter can find some things that the replacer command can't autocorrect. And there's one more thing. If we go to Swift format, lint ---- help, you'll see that there's a strict mode, and this makes sure whenever there is a single warning even, it makes the command fail. And that's what we want, because we want our pre-commit hook to prevent us from committing if there is a single warning even. So I'm just going to say run it in strict mode. There you go. I don't want to have this in the Xcode script because I don't want my build to fail. I want the build to succeed, but show warnings in Xcode. But before I commit, that's when I think, okay, everything is fine. I want this actually to fail, so I can't commit with warnings. With that set up, let's also stage this. I should be ready to commit this. So extend Swift format config file with latest defaults plus add build script. Let's make this shorter. Use Swift format latest default with changes plus add build script. That's what we've done here. And when I run this, you can see the assets file that got ignored before. It's being set back because our SwiftGen command is basically not knowing about the new whitespace preference. So let's adjust our SwiftLint, SwiftGen settings here. So I have SwiftGen assets generated as stencil, and you can see that it's using 2 spaces here everywhere. So I'm just going to mark all 2 spaces, and that's a command in Atom to mark the same thing. I'm just going to go to the right and add 1 more space. So now we have 3 spaces everywhere. And we are using our own stencil for the assets, but for the strings we're using structured Swift 5. So let's see if I can provide a custom white spacing here for SwiftGen. So this is the, I think it's in sources, SwiftGen kit, I guess. Oh, not really. Maybe in documentation, templates, there you go. And we have the template for strings, structured Swift 5. So I can provide an enum name, force file enum, lookup function, no comments, public access. So I cannot adjust the white spaces here. It's always 2. Okay, this is generated code, so I don't really care. The question is, can I ignore this in the Swift format? And there's one more thing with this Swift format file. It doesn't have an option, even not here. You can see there I can provide, like with the recursive, I can provide directories to search through, and I can ignore unparsable files, but there's no way to skip specific files as far as I can see. So I want to skip this specific file, or maybe even the whole folder here, and I don't know a way to do that actually right now. So what are we going to do? What we could do is, if I go to the build script, yeah, you can see we're running SwiftGen after Swift format. So Swift format first corrects things and makes the proper spaces that we want, but then SwiftGen overrides that. If we just move this above Swift format, I think the issue should be solved, because then Swift format will be able to correct the spaces here. So let's stage this And this, we can still add that, so let's also add them there. And these, I expect them to be reset, so let's commit it with these changes. Let's see if that works. Yeah, it worked, so that was a solution. Just changing the order. Now we can push. So we have applied Swift format. Let's summarize that as well. And that's the thing that we wanted to do next. So we have 5 minutes left for the break, until the next break starts. Is there something I could do now? Let's just start. So the next thing we're going to do is actually apply as many Swift lint rules as I can with the style still fitting my needs. And for doing that, I actually want to start off with the default configuration. And the default configuration, I believe, is documented here. Let's have a look. I'm not sure if this is a default configuration, but at least we can copy this and we can start with this. So that's the configuration we want to use. And I'm just going to create a new file. And in the case of Swift lint, it's just called, let's just look it up. These are the rules, and okay, let's just search for config. There you go. So the configuration file by default is .swiftlint.yaml. And I'm going to add, I want to add the same thing, but the thing is, again, it's not going to show up in Xcode like we have with Swift format. So instead of creating one with dot with a hidden file, I'm just going to create a Swift format. In this case, I'm using uppercase because that's the official name of SwiftLint here. It's written in uppercase. And I'm just going to give that file, this is the configuration file. And like we've done with the Swift format, I'm going to create a symbolic link with ln-s and then the path to the SwiftGen configuration file, to the original, which is SwiftGen, no, not SwiftGen, SwiftLint. Why can I not find it? Did I put it? Oh, I named it Swift format. My bad. I meant SwiftLint. And now it should find it, and I want to create it, the symbolic link at SwiftLint.yaml. I think that was the name. Now it should be able to find it easily. And actually, we're not really using this one here because we are providing, we are using this. So we're not using it in Xcode because we had to specify explicitly the path here in this case. And I could actually go for the right file here right away, just Swift format.json. But when we run it from the build script here, as you can see, I don't have to provide a config file path, and that's the advantage. And I want to keep the same. Well, let's just first copy in all these things from the default. So you can see we can disable rules. You can see we can opt into rules, and we're going to use that extensively. We're going to also disable some rules. Well, let me remove the documentation here. And let me remove those as well. We're going to add them over time. Same with opt-in rules. We're going to add a lot of them, actually. And only rules is another option. We don't want to use that. Then we can specify included paths and excluded paths. So we're going to use that. I'm not going to use any analyze rules. The included paths, we will write that right after the break, but let's clean this up first. And these are the settings that are rules specific. So let's actually document this part as rules specific settings. And this is like general settings, like which rules enabled and what are the paths to search through. And these are the more specific settings. I already know I'm going to specify something else for line length, which is 150. So let's add that. And actually we could even turn this off because we already have that in Swift format, right? So I think I'm going to turn this off in SwiftLint to not get double warnings. So let's disable this. We know that we have it already. All the other things, let me just remove them for now. And we're just going to set them up over time. Although I know that identifier name I'm probably going to want. And reporter Xcode I think is already a default, so let's remove that as well. But with that, we're going to do the actual thing after the break, short break, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, let's continue with our SwiftLint configuration. And I want to actually opt into everything and then remove them step by step. Also, we need to specify the paths here. So let's start with the paths. I think we are going to search for the same paths like we do in our Swift format. So let's just open the build script where it is. Here we go. So these paths are the ones that we're searching through. Let's just add them here as well. And I can just do it like that. Indent, add like that. Okay, so it's searching sources, tests, open focus timer app, and package Swift. In this case, we can actually do excludes. So I'm going to exclude the Swift generated files, which are in the sources, resources, SwiftGen. And we can also exclude the Barty Crouch file. Okay, let's remove the comment here as well. So that looks good to me, the included and excluded ones. Now disabled and enabled or opt-in rules, that's what we need to specify. Also identifier name, I don't want to change the defaults, just keep the defaults, and the excluded ones I want to keep ID. URL is not needed because the default I think is free already. And ID, and what else that is of 2 spaces we want to ignore. I don't know yet. We'll see if there are any. But we want to exclude ID. I think this is actually the default, so we might be able to remove this if we don't add more, but let's keep it for now because I expect to add more. Or maybe we don't add more. Let's not try. Okay. We're going to go for a lot of opt-in rules. Maybe we want to first run it without opt-in rules to see what it looks like right now. So let's first stage these changes. And what did we change here? Swift. Oh, okay. This actually belongs to the previous commit. So I'm going to amend it to the previous commit. And then we have to force push. Now this is the new commit. And let's set up the same build script that we did for Swift format, but now for SwiftLint. Just going to add another run script. SwiftLint. Copy and paste. In this case, we just run SwiftLint. And here too. SwiftLint. I don't think we need to specify anything here except the path to the configuration file because we're going to run again in the open focus timer folder, but it lies, the configuration file lies outside of it. So let's look into the help and let's go to the lint one and get the help for that. You can see we can provide a few specific things. One thing I want to do is I want to downgrade all serious violations, so violations that report as errors. I want to downgrade them to warnings because I want SwiftLint to only show warnings. So lenient is something I want to add for sure. Let's do that. In this case, like in this Swift Xcode one. Lenient. And then we have the path. So I can specify a path to run from, and that's exactly what I want to do. I want it to run from the path ... I hope that works. Quiet, don't print status. I think this is fine. And you can see we can say enable all rules, but we want to do this in the configuration file because we don't want to enable all of them actually. But that's basically the script here, and let's fix this as well. SwiftLint not installed. Let's copy the link so we can't have typos. There you go, this is the whole setup. I think this should work. Let's first try it out before we commit something. So in this case, because I'm just running it from inside here, it's not going to change any code. So we are safe to run it. And I'm expecting many warnings actually. And here we go. This is like one. Let me close this. So we can see this is from the rule unused closure parameter, for example. And we are going to have many, and we have 68 warnings actually only, so that's not many. I expected more, but because we haven't enabled all the opt-in rules yet. And I want to enable all opt-in rules, so let's go to Swift format, SwiftLint again. So SwiftLint help, and we have here a command which is just called rules. So let's run that. And here we go, we have a full list of all the rules that we can add. And I want to add all the ones that are that are opt-in, so where opt-in says yes, but it's not sorted by that, so I'm just actually going to copy this. Just going to open the Numbers app. Just a blank one. Just going to copy, just going to paste this into here. So there's a lot of things that we don't need here really. And this line specifically, we can delete that, delete this row too, and this too, we don't need them. Delete the rows. And now we want to sort by where this first thing was yes, right? Let's remember. Yeah, the first one is yes. And we can do that easily by just saying sort ascending or descending. And I'm going to sort ascending, so all the no ones, we can ignore them. But all the yes ones starting here are basically rules that we can opt into. And I'm going to just get them all. Now we can go back to here. And we can just copy that in. And you can see all these rules, and I'm just going to yeah, mark new lines here. Let's do it right. So you can multi-select by pressing Command D in the Atom editor, like you can do with Command Option E in Xcode. And now I can basically say white space, one dash. Okay, one too many here. But now we have all of them opted into. And before I run this, let me first have a quick look if we can maybe remove some that are obviously not needed. Anonymous argument, any area. Okay, let me save that file to remove trading spaces. Okay. Variant, balanced, capture variable. Which of these are definitely not needed? IB inspectable. So this is something about UIKit. And just to save also build time, where the linter checks our code, I'm just going to turn off all the ones that are only UIKit related, like with interface builder, in this case storyboard or zip related. So those we don't need, and I can just remove them. What else do we have here? Nimble operator. This is something specific to a testing framework called Nimble, which I used to use a lot, but then at some point I learned that it doesn't really make that big of a difference, and then just sticking with the default. So we're not using Nimble, so we don't need it. This localized string key, number operator. Prefer Nimble again. action outlet are both related to also interface builder, prohibited interface builder, super call. Quick. Okay, this is quick basically is related to enable the together build, the testing framework I talked about before, and quick we're not using as well. Okay, I actually know that I don't want to have required D in it, so if I have a type with an initializer, it requires me to provide a D initializer as well. I don't need that. Sorted imports, we have that already in Swift format, so we don't need a double check here. Again, IB outlet, relate to interface builder. Trail enclosure actually is something that's, I would say, not possible to make sure you always have that with SwiftUI. So we're using SwiftUI and that doesn't go well with trail enclosure, so let's remove that as well. Unowned variable capture, I don't think it's a bad thing to do that if you know what you're doing. But I'm actually not using that much, so maybe we keep it until some situation arises where we want to remove it. Okay, that looks like we have removed quite some of them. Let me also catch the Pokemon. A bounce suite appears. So bounce suite, what is that? Ah, yeah, okay. Cool, with all these set up, so we had 68 warnings, and with these changes I'm expecting much more, and let's see how many more. Let's build this again. And we are at 500, around 500 issues now. And we're not going to fix them all because there are going to be many that we just disable. So let's start here, for example, unused closure parameter, because I'm setting up the view store but I'm not using it, but this is like a view that I need to still work on and I don't want to see the warning for that. So this one is one that I'm going to disable. Oops. So it's not showing in the list of opt-ins, so it's actually something on by default and I have to exclude it here in the disabled rules. We had 518 actually. Let's rebuild. And before I continue here, let me actually make sure, because this seems to be working, this script. Let me make sure I have this on iOS as well. And like with the format, I want to run it before compiling the sources. There we go. Back on to our warnings. So this one is implicit return. It wants me to make this implicit if it's just one line. In this case, I actually prefer this, so I want to keep this turned on. But in this situation, I actually don't really need to fix it because I'm going to rewrite, like, this is not complete yet. Basically what's going to be in here is, oh, I see I haven't changed my Xcode preference for annotation, so let's fix that. Let's actually do tab width of 8. Let's change that, although I'm not using it. So now, there we go. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to switch over the action. Currently we don't have any actions, but now the warning should disappear. There we go. And we have prefix top level constant violation. Top level constant should be prefixed by K. I absolutely disagree. This is not something I want. I think it's an Objective-C style thing. And it says missing docs violation, public declaration should be documented. In our case, we're not writing a framework here. In a framework, I would keep this on, but in an app project, I think we don't need to document everything. So let's remove that as well. Explicit ACL, so all declarations should specify access control keywords explicitly, so I should stay internal here if it's internal. No, I don't want to do that. I think it's, I'm already making sure with the packages that I have public and internal being clear. Explicit top level ACL, same thing. No need for that. And we have indentation width. It's saying should be 1 tab or 4 spaces. So we have to set this up. Or just turn this off. I think we are already using, or I think line length and indentation width are different. Indentation width actually works differently, I think, in SwiftLint. It catches more cases. So I'm actually going to keep this on, but provide a setting. So indentation width. And now we're getting into how you can provide settings and how you can read about the settings. So in the SwiftLint project, if you just search for rules, you will find some section about rules, and there are over 200 rules, and they're all documented in this link. So if I just open that, you can find the full list. And the cool thing is you can now search here for a specific rule like indentation width. You can click on it, and you can see the default configuration which gives you an idea of what you can configure. So you can configure severity, you can configure indentation width, and include comments to be true or not. And I'm going to just copy this here. And I can now just specify this and provide it free. And see, we have 311 warnings and it's 247, so that worked. Explicit type interface violation. Oh yeah, so explicit type interface, this is an interesting topic. I actually tweeted about this because in my project recently I actually explored if this is worth it or not, because the whole point is let me go back to the code. The whole point is here the compiler has to figure out the type of this thing. So what this is, it has to figure it out, and this is obviously a array of strings. So the correct thing would be here a string array, or like some, how do I put it, array of strings, the same thing. And this basically wants me to put it here explicitly to help the compiler compile faster. But I tested this in one of my projects where I had exactly this setup, and I basically fixed all the warnings, and it was around 300 warnings. And before doing that, I measured how long my builds, like a clean build, took before and after doing that, and the difference was 0.01% or something, 0.1%. So 1 promille basically was the difference in time that the compiler built faster. And for that, having to put these explicitly in all the places, it just isn't worth it for me. You will find that I am already trying to put it explicitly in places where I think, okay, the compiler might struggle here. So I am already doing that in many places, but having to do it everywhere, from my experience, from my testing, there is no value in that. So it's not really making it much faster, and that's the point of this rule, so I'm just going to remove it. We're down to 210. So here we have file name, and basically the file name expects that our types have the same name as the file, or to put it differently, the file name to have exist inside the file as a type. And as you can see, we are doing reducer store view here, and the store combines state and action. And that's actually something I want to change as well. This is a new style I've started in my private project, because there is some advantage to that, but we're going to do that later. So for now, I'm going to turn this off, but not remove it entirely. Instead, I comment it out and document for myself that I want to re-enable once the files are called RSV. RSV is changed to, and the new one is going to have a reducer, an action handler, a state. So it's going to be AH RSV. So something like AH RSV, something like that. And I think we're going to have error as well. EF, something like that. This is going to be a lot of files, but yeah, I'm going to explain that in a later stream, how I'm going to do that. But for now, we're turning off file name. Then we have file types order. So this is a more complicated rule, and this is actually one of the rules that very few people know about, as far as I can say. And let's read up what it does. So let's go to, no, not file name. I was looking for file types order. So let's go into this. And you can see here that this has a default configuration where you can provide an order, and the order accepts things like supporting type, main type, extension, preview provider. So you can see this is about the order of types inside a file. For example, that supporting types like a type, a new type, is at the top of the file, and the main type, which is the name of the file as well, is at the middle, and any preview providers like SwiftUI previews are at the bottom, and extensions are also below that. So that's like the default one, and there is supporting type and main type are on one level, then extension is on the next, and preview providers last. No, they're not on one level. They're actually, this is the order: supporting, main, extension, preview provider. And related to that, there's also another rule. Not sure if we can already see a warning of that. Okay, we'll get to that later. Basically, there's also one file contents order. Oh, maybe we can go to type contents order, actually. Type contents order. So here, very similarly, but now a type content can have more things. It can have, in the case of enums, can have cases. You can have type aliases inside. You can have associated types, subtypes, type properties, instance properties, etc. And this is basically the order that is enforced by default. And you can adjust that if you want to. So you can copy this and just adjust it. Like, okay, so let me try that. Like type contents order. And then you don't have to provide the full names here. You can just say something like case. And then type alias. And you can actually also say, okay, I don't care, type aliases and associated types can be mixed. Like sometimes the type alias can be at the top, sometimes associated type can be at the top. That's totally possible. You just have to provide it like this. So that's how you can like specify your own order, but I'm going to opt for the default order. I actually wrote this rule myself in SwiftLint. So I put my preferred order in there, which also I think goes in line with what the community usually does. Just to mention these two rules, I think they are underused and they can be really useful. So in this case, it says the main type should not be placed among a supporting type, and it thinks this is the main type because the type here is called store, and it's looking for the store, it can't find it. So this is also another rule that currently doesn't work for the same reason, like this one here. And I'm just going to comment this out as well for the same reason and comment in later. File types order, comment out. There we go. We dropped it to 205. Vertical white space, closing brace. Don't include vertical white space before closing braces. So yeah, it just expects me, and we can actually do it like this here. Okay, so it says, please don't use force unwrapping. But when I use force unwrapping, I know what I'm doing. So I think I'm going to keep this turned off. Next, we have no grouping extension while evaluation. Extensions shouldn't be used to group code within the same source file. I absolutely disagree. I think you should actually do that. You should use extensions to group things that belong together. So let's keep it. Type contents order. So this is the one I mentioned, and here it says instance. It says an initializer should not be placed among the type contents instance property. So it expects basically to have instance properties first and initializers later, but you can see there is an instance property below it. So it thinks basically when walking through this, because there is an instance property here, that this is the list of instance properties, but it finds an initializer which is not supposed to be there. So we need to move this up. Now it should be happy. There you go. Trailing comma, this is actually, it says collection address should not have trailing commas, but I disagree. I want to have it actually. So let's turn it off, and actually it's on by default. So STU. Next. Closure body length violation. Closure body should span 20 lines or less, excluding comments. Okay, for this specific file, I want to actually disable this. Let's see if we can do that. So let's go to closure body length. Okay, there's no excluded here, so I can't exclude it for just one file. How can we solve this? We could just make a SwiftLint ignore here. I think that's the way to go. So SwiftLint, and we can disable it in the next line and give the rule name, and this should prevent this from being reported, because this is an exception, because this is our script file for our linter, so that's why I'm ignoring that. Indentation width violation should be indented by 3 or more spaces. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's actually fix that by reapplying 3 spaces. This is the same thing. For some reason it indents too much. Same here. Oops. Fixed now. Test case accessibility violation. Test case should only contain private and non-test members. Actually, before I fix this, let me show you one more feature of SwiftLint. And so far, let's stage all the changes we made, so we don't forget that they are on purpose. And before I continue with more, I want to actually show you that you can actually run SwiftLint --fix to fix all issues it finds, and that it cannot correct. By doing that, we can have a look at what it can fix, and it can fix some white space issues like here, and it can remove the .init here, which I think is a great thing, so we shouldn't call .init explicitly. Also, this is removed. And it is removing the explicit type here, because false and explicit type, it's already obvious to them. I'm not really sure if I want to keep that. Same here. But here actually the type is absolutely clear on this side, so we can remove it. I guess on false is also fine. Let's just keep that. And as you can see, that's the warning that we just got reported, and it had fixed it itself. So I'm just going to stage these, and this way we're saving some time. And from 153 issues, we're dropping down to 146. Function body length. Function body should span 40 lines or less. So it tells us to extract some part here. In the case of tests, I don't want to do that. So for tests, I don't really care if the test is long, and this is a use case test, like an integration test or something. And I think it's fine if this is long, and I actually agree, or let's put it differently. I already get a feeling if a function is too long, that it's too long because it's so inconvenient to use it anymore. I don't really need a warning to remind me of that. So I'm just going to turn this off entirely. And it's on by default. This is just one I personally don't need. Prefer self and static references. Yeah, why not? Anonymous argument in multiple closure violations. So whenever you have multiple lines, you should not use anonymous naming. I agree with that. So let's, I think this one we can just put into one line. Then we have the same thing here, and we can also put this into one line. And yet again. Okay, closure body length. Closure body should span 20 lines or less. Same thing. I always get a feeling of if this is too long, and for the reducers we need them to be that long, so let's just turn that off. Type contents order violations. So a type property should not be placed amongst subtypes. So the subtype should come first, and it seems there is a type property, which is this one, and below it is a subtype. So we should move the subtype up. But I don't see a subtype here. Oh, it's this one here. Okay, I see. Let's move it up here and let's make it private. This should fix it. Conditional returns on new line. Conditional statement should always return on the next line. No, I don't agree. Oh yeah, for if let you should do that. But we should make it clear only it's reported on if let. Can we make that? Conditional returns on new line. If only, yeah, exactly. That's what we need. So I want to specify that swiftLint.yaml. What's the name of the rule? So conditional returns on new line should only report something on ifs, not on guards, because when there is a guard, I already expect there is going to be a return. For ifs, you never know what's inside, and I think it's good if it's on an extra line, the return. So if only set to true. And let's keep this in order, in alphabetical order. There we go. So it does return, and this is exactly what I want because this is an if, and an if should be explicit on its own line. And we have some forced tries here, and yeah, forced tries, I'm not really sure if I should turn them on, should turn them off. Obviously, they're not a good thing, but also kind of obviously I never do them if I'm not really sure that it's going to work, or if I basically want to know when it fails. So I tend to turn it off, but I absolutely see the need in keeping it on. So if you want to keep that on for your project, just do that. And I think O comes before U. Let's continue. Type contents order again. It says an initializer should not be placed amongst instance properties. So we have an instance property below, and it's this one here. So the body should always be above. Hey Yedid, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Hope you've been well. Yeah, I've been great lately. I'm actually working a lot on my private project, making a lot of progress. So I actually have something to show off in just a couple of weeks for what I'm actually working on, not this app, in my full-time job. And I'm pretty sure that people are going to like it, like developers are going to like it. So I'm looking forward to releasing that. How have you been? How are you doing? So I like to move the body at the top because I want the store here and here to stay together. And I think we have the same issue with every view. Yeah, let's just move the body to the top. That's awesome. Excited to demo. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to show it obviously in the stream too. So if you come to the stream as soon as I make a first beta release, even I'm going to use it and test it in my day-to-day open source development work, because it's something related to developers, and it's something that I absolutely can make use of during my streams. So I'm going to show it off here, and you can learn from it, off it in my streams if you stay jumping in. And what we're currently doing is we're setting up SwiftLint, a lot of SwiftLint rules, opting into them, and fixing all the warnings. Extension access modifier. Prefer use extension access modifier. This is exactly the opposite of what Swift format is expecting, so let's turn it off. Okay, here it says a type method should not be placed amongst instance property. Yet again, type method's supposed to be below instance properties. And attributes should be on their own lines in function and type, but on the same line in variable and imports. Absolutely disagree. Like, are you one of those people who likes to write something like that? I really hate this, especially in SwiftUI, because they can get so long. You can have like parameters in here, And then where's the name of that thing? It's like so much to the right. I just can't skim through the code anymore just to see what variables it has. Whereas when it's like this, I can skim through it because they're like on the same level, you see? And that's much easier to skim through. So I'm definitely going to turn off this rule, which is attributes. Or maybe we can set it, we can configure it to work the way I want it to work. Always on same line, IB action, and as managed. Always on line above, everything else. So it says basically only NS managed and IB action is supposed to be on the same line. I even disagree with them. So let's set up attributes. Yeah, it's overkill. I mean, it's a matter of taste in the end. And this is just my preference. I'm just going to pass an empty array. I think that should make sure these disappear. But they don't. Did I make something wrong? Attributes, always on same line. Yeah, let me just turn it off. It's not checking for what I want it to check. Okay, next we have a type method should not be placed amongst instance property. Yet again, the same issue like we had before. And here we have a legacy Objective-C reference type violation prefers Swift value types to bridged Objective-C reference types. And it's saying NS set here, but this is code generated by core data actually, and I think I want to just exclude these from SwiftLint. Sources model core data. This also makes sense. Now let's move this back up again because this is how it's being generated by core data. And let's go back to here as well. And I don't want to meddle with generated code because that's too much work. You then always have to fix it each time you regenerate. Instead, let's just ignore it. Sources model core data. So excluded sources model core data. So Yedid, what are you doing right now? Are you coding? Are you in your free time? What's your state? Is it like watching on the side? Because I'm always curious if this is more like a co-working stream, because co-working streams, for those, I think I'm talking too much because I'm trying to explain everything I do. So if this is co-working, I should probably talk less and just work and just talk rarely. I'm thinking more of maybe some beginners also will watch these streams later on YouTube, and then for them it's going to be great to hear what I'm thinking and why I'm doing these things. So these should be turned off now. Oh, they're still showing. Did I do something wrong? Sources model core data. Sources model core data. I think it's under open focus timer. Wait, no, that's correct. And do we want to ignore everything in here? Yeah, these are all models. But why does it show excluded sources model core data? I just finished my dog app a few weeks ago, applying for dogs and maintaining the app right now. Applying for dogs, I see. I usually watch streams in the morning before I code. Okay, so you're basically working also on the side. So this is a co-working stream for you in this case. Do you think I'm talking too much for a co-working stream? Like, what would be your preference? I just worked and talked rarely. It helps me get in the code flow. Cool. Makes sense. Ah, you're applying for jobs, not dogs. Watching while cleaning my room. I thought you were like planning to buy a dog because you just finished your dog app. That's what I thought. Yeah, you finished your dog app, but applying for jobs. Watching while cleaning my room. In that case, I can talk as much as I want. You don't have to listen though. So I wonder why this is not being ignored. I guess the path isn't quite right. Sources, model, core data. This is exactly the right. Sources, model, core data, no typos. Let me show this in Finder. Let's just make sure we're copying the exact right path. So sources, model, core data. Yeah, it's the same thing. It should actually be ignored and it should not show here. It's not even showing this. Swiftland, disable all. I guess that's our last resort. I don't know why it's not working for the ignores. Should actually ignore it all. No, I think it's good to talk. Sometimes I'll learn random useful things. Yeah, sure, that's right. That's also the point. Okay, something is definitely wrong. Swiftland shouldn't actually report anything, especially if I disable all. Is that wrong? Is that not how you disable all? I think it was like this. Missed the white space. Okay, now they're not showing anymore. In this case, again, let's move up the property. We have a force cast violation. Again, I'm only force casting if I'm sure. Although in this case, maybe I could go for... Would that work? Nah. I'm just going to turn off force cast. It's turned on by default, so to disable it in the disable rules. And legacy Objective-C reference type violation. This is definitely something we want to turn off because we're doing a lot with Objective-C type still. Especially because of core data. Orphaned doc comment. A doc comment should be attached to a declaration. Okay, then let's duplicate it, if that's how it's reported. Vertical white space, opening braces, yeah. Type contents order, a type property should not be placed among subtypes, so we have a subtype here, and I think this is the same that we had before. Why do we have this multiple times? I think we need it in each module, that's why. Multi-line function change function calls should be neither on the same line, either on the same or on one per line. So I kind of agree with that. So let's make it like this, which I think is more readable. And we have conditional returns. We already had that. Ooh, MomoG1907 just subscribed for the second month. Thank you very much for subscribing. And a quick reminder for everyone who has Amazon Prime that you can actually for free support my stream. So let me just show you the link. Thank you very much for subscribing. What do you think about outsourcing automated testing for mobile apps using external tools instead of writing tests? Yeah, I actually had someone ask a similar question on Twitter just recently, and let me find my answer. tweets. There was something with tests. That's not it. That's not it. Okay. Anyways, basically, what I think about automated tests, and when you talk about automated tests, you mean something like Firebase Test Lab, right? You mean basically you mean monkey testing. I think that's how I can find it. Twitter. Oh, there we go. No need for the app here. Let's just search for monkey testing. Because I had something like that recently. And can I search like this? Not really. Twitch Nazel, thank you for following. How are you doing? How's your day going? Okay, I'm just going to search for monkey testing and just for the latest. It was just recently, like 1 or 2 days ago, so I think I could find it like this. Okay, it's taking too long anyways. So what you're talking about is monkey testing, where a system automatically runs tests against your code, and basically you can also read about that on Wikipedia. Basically what it does is either it's a dumb monkey test where it just clicks around randomly and just tries to find crashes, or it's more like a smart test where it has like a basic idea of some logic, and then it can do some more logical things. Yes, in that certain case it would be even Test Sigma, if you know that tool already. No, I don't know that. But let me just give you my general advice here, and you can also see the advantages and disadvantages here. So it says monkey testing is an effective way to identify some out-of-the-box errors. And disadvantages: randomness testing often makes the bugs found difficult or impossible to reproduce. So from my experience, the problem with these tools is they only find crashes and some edge cases that are not really something that many people are going to run into. So in 99.9% of the cases, it's better to write unit tests about some specific situations and use cases you actually know you're going to use. And for those few cases that you find with this, you can find like weird crash bugs this way, but you might not be able to reproduce even if you find them. But those even that you can find and reproduce, not many users are going to run into them. Like I think if you have an obvious bug, a really obvious bug, then this is good. This definitely doesn't hurt. It can find very obvious bug. If you could just click this button, after clicking this button, then the app crashes, something like that. You can prevent that running into these if you use a testing tool. But you said Test Sigma. Let me have a look into this. I'm sure it's not free. It's actually also scenario testing, where you can set up certain scenarios, which for example could also replace release testing cases, has also REST API testing, etc. So not solely crash related. As soon as you specify what it needs to do, it's no longer monkey testing. It's really basically a different way of writing tests, writing unit tests. And there's also a lot of levels of unit tests. You can have behavior driven development, you can have all those things. And I don't know this specifically, but it definitely costs something after a given thing. And one thing I just want to point out is that there is Swift monkey testing. There's a library, or monkey test, something like that. Monkey test, GitHub. So there are libraries that can do that for you, like for example this one from Zalando, and basically it just runs your app and just like puts things on every place of your app, and that's how you can test it with unit tests. So you specify unit test and you just run it. And in general though, if you can specify some things like, hey, please try to complete this kind of use case, I think you can do that. You can use it, and it can be very useful. But I would definitely please make sure not to rely on this solely. So if you only use this and you don't write any unit tests anymore, you're going to have serious troubles. because there are some places where you write code that just has some logic that needs to be tested. It just has to be tested. No automated testing tool can cover that. So if you have code that is about logic, if you have code that is I don't know, decoding, encoding stuff and things like that, make sure to test the normal use case, a typical use case, and maybe one or two extra cases. So this cannot replace unit tests, but I think it can help like prevent having to write like large use case testing. You don't have to write many unit tests anymore, only in some specific case. So that's, I think, my feedback here. I hope that helps, because in 4 seconds we're going into a 5-minute break and it's already time. So I hope that this input was somewhat helpful, and thank you again for subscribing, and I'll be back in 4 minutes. Okay, let's continue, and thank you Silicon Sorcerer for following. Thank you very much, much appreciated. So we had a quick dive into testing or automated testing frameworks and if they can replace unit tests. But let's get back to our SwiftLint setup here, because we still have some warnings to fix. 33 only left, so we're getting close to fixing it entirely. And we can see identifier name violation reported here in this color extension, which I think is adapted from this place, and I think we can rename these things too. But we can't use red because they're being used here down. Instead, what is this really? This is the... I think, what's the type? Capped hex. So it's like a hex, it's like some integer type. I'm just going to call them red hex, like this. And we can rename it. Can we rename edit on scope? There we go, red hex. Green hex. Blue hex. Opacity hex. There we go, this should resolve the warning. Yet another anonymous argument, because if it's just one line, then we can use the $0, otherwise we shouldn't. Okay, here we have another case where an initializer should not be placed among instance properties. So it seems like we have an instance property below this, and we still have the same case where the body should be at the top of a SwiftUI file. So let's get that done. This should compile now without warnings. Okay, here we have yet another one where the body, we just need to move it at the top. Let's remove these first. There we go. Next we have pattern matching keywords violation. Combine multiple pattern matching bindings by removing keywords out of tuples. Yeah, this is what I used to use, but as we talked about in the Swift format, that's the opposite of what the default of Swift format is. So let's remove it, and let's keep this multiple lets because Swift format defaults to it. And I think that's about it. Yeah, so I don't see any SwiftLint warnings anymore, and let's run SwiftLint from here just to see it. Yeah, 0 violations, 0 serious in 32 files. So we have fixed all SwiftLint warnings. Let's just check that we're not doing anything weird. Yeah, this is looking good to me. We have disabled some things here and removed some things from the enabled. We have done some changes to the configuration, and this is our end configuration file of this SwiftLint setting up. So we set up SwiftLint basically, And I want to see if we also have it in our build script. No, we don't have it here yet. So what I want to have is something similar to this here. I want to make sure that if SwiftLint finds a single warning even, and let's go to SwiftLint help again. And we have to go to the SwiftLint lint subcommands help. There is a strict mode here as well, and it upgrades all warnings to serious violations, errors. And if there's a single error, the whole command fails. So that's what we want to have. So our pre-commit hook can then make sure that we can't even commit if we have a single warning even. So that's why the SwiftLint strict is being added here. And Swift build script is being run on our pre-commit hook, if you remember. So that's how it all plays together. And we can, I think, complete the committing here. So set up SwiftLint with custom configuration plus fix all warnings. That's basically what we have done. And we can summarize that exactly that way. Let's go to our summary in Notion. Cool. That was the plan to start off this stream, to basically set up the Git attributes thing, to set up Swift format, to set up SwiftLint, and we have done all that. So that means we can actually go back to implementing more features to our app. So what we want to do actually next is show main feature and start implementing a sidebar and tab bar based on main screen. Let's have a look at what our app looks like right now when we run it. And we actually put a continue here warning. So I think this is where we're going to continue. So that's maybe also a tip for everyone who has to like stop working immediately because maybe it's just the end of the day. Maybe you have to go have a lunch break or something like that, and you just want to remember where you just left off. Just quickly write a warning comment and use the words continue here, so you can quickly search for it later and you know immediately, okay, that was where I left off. You can add a comment as well, what you want to do, and that's like a small tip there. So this is what the app looks like right now. We have the added categories and we can actually choose categories now. It does work. We can close that. We can edit the summary, so we can write some text here, 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 and we can close that and we can start a timer. And when we start a timer, it asks me, okay, which category is it actually? And when it ends the timer, I can actually edit the summary at the end as well. So that's what the whole logic of our timer is right now. The UI doesn't look nice, so we haven't worked on the UI at all. We just put like together the most basic UI elements I can imagine, just to make the logic work first, and then we're going to iterate on the UI later. But for the logic, we are still missing showing the main feature, which is basically not the timer, but a screen where we can see more. Because just as a reminder for everyone who doesn't know or forgot, the idea behind the focus timer that I want to write is not just to have a Pomodoro timer with categories that we now have here, but I also want to have the possibility to enter the reflection. I also want to have the possibility to see the whole history of like all the timers I have seen. I want to have some statistics, and the statistics should be filterable by categories and things like that. And yeah, we will add more features maybe later, like exporting, maybe syncing with iCloud, maybe encrypting the text inputs. And also, that's definitely something I want to do right towards the end, implement a multiple design chooser. So the community and anyone who's interested in like providing a more nice or more custom UI for the timer, they can basically just use the same code, but provide a different UI, like a different design for this timer. And so we have like in the end like a selector where all the community designs for the timer can be chosen, because that's I think something that people might want to use, and especially for me as a streamer, because I am using, as you can see here, somewhere on my screen, there is a timer where I'm using the Flow app, and I want to use my OpenFocus timer app later for that. And each streamer might have a different design for their overlays and things like that. Like I don't have much design. I just show you my screen, and I'm behind a green screen or in front of a green screen. So not much there, but others might have some designs for their stream, and they might want to include that design in the timer as well. So that's the features we want to set. But the thing was that for the categories here, currently they are set in code, they are constants. And this is just the things that I need right now. And this is even missing the AnyLint project that I have been working on. So I need a way to add more projects. I also need a way to specify more category groups. So this is one category group, it's task type, one is project. And these are not customizable at the moment. And so we need some view where we can do all of that. And that's what the main feature means. And here we said show main feature and start implementing sidebar. I think we have already created the main feature here. Yeah, we have done this here. So the main feature view, the main feature state and action, and the main feature reducer, they're all empty right now, although this does show something. And we want to connect it all from within the OpenFocus Timer app. So we want to show this. How can we actually do that? So when I start the app, it just shows this window group by default. And we don't have a state here, so we're always just showing that. And we could do it the same way. So let's just remove this. Start implementing sidebar, tab bar, base main screen. Yeah, that's for later. Let's uncomment this. So we have a window group. And what's going on with the spacing? Should be free, right? It was commented out, so that's why the spacing was broken. Anyways, that's what we want to show, and we want to show the main feature. So let's show the main feature view. And we have to initialize it with a store. This is going to be our main feature store, but it already knows the type, so we can just go for init. Doesn't work. But we have to do that. So initial state, reducer, environment. Initial state, let's just go for the simple init. The reducer is the main feature. Okay, somehow I can't access these. Maybe I have to import main feature. No such module main feature. What's the issue? So yeah, that's the only thing I'm linking is the app entry point. I need to link the main feature as well. Same here on iOS. Main feature. Okay, now we can go back. Now this should actually work. I should get out completion main feature reducer. And for the environment, we're going to just use the same as here, which is just the app env. Cannot find main feature reducer. Is it called differently? Oh, it's called main window reducer. I forgot to rename this. Main feature reducer. There we go. Let's remove these types. They can be inferred. Build again. Okay, now this builds. Let's run it. Let's see what it looks like. So I see this window here. I don't see any other window, but I think we can see it here. No, we can't. So let me close everything else that we don't really need. Don't need this either. Let's close this and that. Let's hide the notion. Okay, I only see this screen. I don't know why it's not showing the other one. I would expect to show all window groups. App entry point did appear. Let me rerun this. Maybe something went wrong. If I close it and open a new window. Okay, it always opens this one. Let's change the order. So this is something that I'm not really experienced with, how to deal with multiple windows in SwiftUI on a Mac. So let's play around and have some learnings here. And I think this init we can get rid of. Okay, so this might be the issue. It just doesn't have any size. Yeah, let's give this some proper content. So let's give this a padding. Well, actually, let me put it into v-stack and that, and then h-stack. Let's just add a spacer around it. And let's do the same here as well, just to see what things look like. Oops. Okay, still not much going on there. Let's give this a size of 500 to 500, no alignment. So this is now our window for that, but I only see one new window, and each time I run a new window, it opens the main feature. So how can I show both the timer and the main feature and switch between them? That's an interesting question, and here we go. So I would actually expect both to be shown because I'm just showing both at the same time. I also expect both to show in the new menu. So let's have a look at the SwiftUI companion app. About window group. What can we learn about that? Scene that presents a group of identical windows. Megan, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? How are things going? Did you stream lately? I think you're still streaming in the very early mornings, right? I see your notifications. How are they going? For example, please represent a view style handles external events. That's definitely something interesting. No ID, no title. So I can provide an ID to them. Add a title. Let's provide a title. Let's see what happens if we just provide a title. Like in this case, I just say main. And in this case, I just say timer. Doing all right? Yeah, I streamed yesterday morning and it was good. Gonna start doing that more. Great. So you're doing, now we have multiple entries. That's cool to see. Okay, now it works. So we have to provide a title so it knows what to show. That's great, but now we can provide multiple of them, right? Yeah. Do they also work independently? No, they are synced. That's interesting. That's really cool. Okay. So you're doing your freelance work, right? At that time. Still, so it's a co-working stream basically. Okay, I don't want to have like multiple tabs do the same thing either. They are independent from each other and I can like run multiple timers, and that's actually something that might be interesting. We could do that. Actually, there's nothing that speaks against that. We could have multiple timers running, but for now, maybe for the first version, we want to just make sure, because we are also syncing the state, that would just prevent you creating multiple of them. The main window, definitely, I think we just want to have one. Yeah. So, how can I make sure that only one is shown? Maybe let's just add a warning for that. So we want to make sure. Let's do it here. Warning, make sure either only one of each window type can be shown, or provide independent states. So as always, because this is something that doesn't really prevent users from using the app, I'm just going to comment it as something that we need to fix at some point. From my priority focus, for my focus, laser focus strategy, this would be the rounding off kind of task. A completing task, but for now we're still in the alpha phase, so we want to first get features done. So I'm just going to skip fixing that issue. Instead, this now kind of works. This main view kind of works. Just it does show up. So let's just make sure that we implement this view itself. And for that, we can just go to the main feature, And we can just work right here. Let's show the preview. I hope the preview works. There we go. Consider that on iOS there might just be one window. Yeah, for iOS we haven't really tested this, right? Yeah, let's focus on macOS first. We can still provide a solution for iOS later. Okay, what features do we need here? Let's go back to our notes about our session summary. So show main feature and start implementing sidebar, tab bar based main screen. So I want to have like a tab bar based main screen. And I want to have a sidebar. I think what we need to do for that is just provide a navigation view. So let's just provide a navigation view. Now let's just do 2 of these text things. 1, 2. Sidebar. Main content. So this kind of works. Maybe the width should be higher than the height. There we go. And maybe the sidebar here should have a min width or exact width maybe of 200 maybe. Maybe too much, 180. Something like that. And this just scales with the view. Cool. So that's the one thing I wanted to do. So we can say we have linked the main feature as a window to the app and implement a basic sidebar main content view. Now next we want to have like a tab bar. So how to do that in macOS? I think tab view is what we need. And you just provide multiple items and give them a tab item, I see. Let's see what that will look like. So inside here, maybe that's the sidebar navigation. This is like the sidebar style. Let's try tab view as an alternative. Tab view, and then just copy and paste the contents here. Okay, I think I need to provide a tab bar item. Tab item. And then it's just a label. And I think an icon label works best, right? Oh, there is a tab label. Interesting. Or is it? Oh, that's manual implementation. H stack with image and text. Oh, why an H stack? It looks like a V stack here to me. Anyways, I'm just going to use a label with a system image, a system symbol, and let's just go for this is sidebar. System symbol, I don't really care. Let's just use person. It's just for testing anyways. And same here. But seems not to build. Cannot convert label to expected argument v. Oh, it needs to be closure. Interesting. So, like this. What does it look like right now? Sidebar, or we're not getting an image. The label doesn't show properly. Can I use a VStack? Maybe it works better. And then I just use a text and an image with system symbol, person, or whatever. No, it doesn't really change. Maybe I have to provide a style. Is there a style? tab view style or something like that. Tab view style, yeah, there is. And there's only automatic. Okay, what I want to do is something like when you just go to Xcode settings, for example, you have like these things at the top. How can I get them in macOS SwiftUI? I thought it's tab view, but I think tab view is more like inside of these. I think it's more like this thing. It's not even showing now. Anyways, I think I prefer the sidebar anyways. So I'm not going to use the tab view, at least not at the top level. But we have explored it and had a look at what it looks like. I think I want to have the navigation view here, which has a sidebar, main content, and now I can make like a selection on the left and show something on the right. Let's implement that. So the whole sidebar view here, I'm going to extract that. And we could use refactor extractor method and just call it sidebar view. And I want this to be below the body and even below the init. And no need for public, no need for file private, just private is enough. No need for the return. Otherwise this looks fine. Let's add the self-reference. Let's do the same here. This I'm going to call content view, I guess. And we don't need to specify the exact view type, let's just use some view. Pilky CRC just raided with two viewers, thank you very much. Welcome to our stream. How was your stream? How was your stream, Pilky? How's it going? Thank you for following. Control Alt Delete. Control Alt Delete. That's a nice name. Hello guys. Hello, yeah, how are you doing? How are things going? So in the stream I am working on a focus timer app for those who don't know, and we have set up today, basically let me go to the summary document quickly. So I'm always writing a summary document. It's the Open Focus Timer. It's an open source app, you can find it on GitHub. And let me just share with you the project in the chat. And we have today set up actually a Git attributes file to prevent GitHub reporting wrong language statistics. We have applied Swift format, we have applied Swift lints, fixed all the warnings. So we've done a lot actually. It was good. I'm thinking getting close to release on the next version of my app. That sounds amazing. That sounds great. Yeah, cool. So did all the features go the way you wanted? Could you, or were you more like fixing bugs? Was that the focus? What was the focus of your changes lately? So we are currently writing like for our timer app, which looks like this right now. So we have a timer, we can start it. When started asks us for a task type and a project that we can select. When the timer ends, we have the possibility to provide a summary, and then we can close and rewards back. That's basically the timer. The UI doesn't look great yet, but we are focusing on the logic right now. And currently I want to set up like a settings screen where I can, for example, add new tasks and task types, where we can also show more things like the history of timers, the statistics, filter by category, and things like that. So that's what we're fighting with right now with SwiftUI, showing multiple windows. That kind of worked. And now we want to design this basic main view. That's basically what we're at. And we just have to start. And I just extracted these two views here. So Pilky, is that does that mean you have a weekend now, as Friday work is done? So can I wish you a nice weekend? The past few streams I've been optimizing and fixing bugs. All I've got left to do is accessibility and all the usual release stuff, updating manuals, websites, etc. Yeah, I get that. Production code always has all these things around it, right? That's normal. Let's move this down to be consistent. Property body must be declared public. Yes, it must be. Okay, let's build and let's get the previews running again so we can see what this looks like. So sidebar, main content. On the sidebar, I want to have a list of things, and the question is what we do want to, what do we really want to show there? And we're going to have okay, for the list of things, I think we need an enum for that. So what things do we want to list there? Let's give it public enum sidebar entry. Let's make it identifiable. Let's make it raw representable with a string actually. Yeah, I'm done for the day, though I'll be doing more coding over the weekend. Yeah, I totally understand that because you're like, it's your own app, and I do that too. Especially right now where my first app still isn't released. So this is, by the way, not my real app that I'm currently working on. I'm working on something else that's going to be an app for developers actually, and I'm going to use it as soon as it's ready. I think I'll be having something to show off in a few weeks, so isn't far away from a first beta release. And that's what I'm working on, and obviously I'm working on the weekends as well when I'm getting bored or something. So we want to have a sidebar entry, and we are going to want to have like an entry for configuring the categories. So I think like categories. This feels like a settings actually. And I think there is something specific for settings. Okay, let me revert that. So before we continue on the main view, on the main feature here, let's make sure that this still builds. Yeah, I want to get back to this level because I know from my private app that I'm working on right now that there is something just called settings, and you can basically provide another view here, and then this is going to appear as settings. So let me just go with a simple text view, settings, give it some padding. So if I just run this as an app, I'm not sure how this is something we can deal with in iOS. I think for iOS we need to provide something else. But for the macOS target, I think this works. And this is basically the most natural way to show settings, because now we have this preferences and it basically shows this settings window. And that's exactly where I think we should put the categories. Or what do you think? I think they're a setting, right? Yeah, I kind of prefer putting it in there. So I'm going to create a new feature here. I'm just going to call it settings. And let's make the right links. So we want to add it here too. Settings. Let's list it as a library. A target, I mean. And we're definitely going to depend on some of these dependencies, for example, the composable architecture. Let's copy over this we'll need, and everything else we can add later. Although we will definitely need a utility, I think, as well. So let's add that. There we go. It's the settings, and let's just copy and paste from the main feature. So we're saving some manual work here. Let's just rename like this. This is settings. Settings. Let's rename the files as well. By the way, I can't reuse refactor here. Instead I have to replace them by marking, because if I refactor it would change this as well. But I don't want that. And last but not least, settings reducer. I think that's about it. Now we should have a settings entry in here. Let's see, settings. No, it's not there yet. Something broken here. It's here. That's also there. Maybe that we should build. Okay, for some reason it's not showing up. Ah, because we don't have auto create schemes turned on. Now it should show up. I've got to run as I've got some errands to run, but enjoy the rest of the stream. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining with your viewers, and I hope you have a nice weekend and had a nice stream. So thank you for joining by, and see you on the next stream. Okay, now we should have the settings. Yeah, there we go. Let's see if it builds. It does build. Let's see a preview. Oh, we have forgotten to rename this. Settings view previews. And we have the same issue here. It's still called window, where it should be called feature. There we go. So settings preview, and this should look exactly like the main view because we have just copied the code. And we could keep this structure, but I think in the settings I actually want to have the tab view. Tab view, or whatever that is that has this top thing. I still don't know how to get that working. So, and then we call tab item. Oh, we have tab view style here as well. Tab view style. Let's look it up in the documentation. Tab view style. Automatic carousel page. Page index display mode. Implements a page scrolling tab view. Implements a carousel tab view. That's interesting. Let's see what they look like. This tag probably is defined on here and may not be available in this context, so maybe it's not available in macOS. Yeah, it's not available on macOS. Okay, what else do we have? Page. It looks like it is available only in Catalyst, so it's not available on macOS. How can I get that? Okay. SwiftUI macOS tab view. Let's see what we got here. Custom tab view for macOS. Yeah. So they seem to be able to specify an image and a text. Why didn't it work for us? I was trying the same before. So if I just go tab item and just provide a v-stack. Let me give this a size this time. Maybe that's what helps. Let's say 100. And height of 102. And then I just put an image with system symbol, person, and text. Sidebar. And we do the same thing here. What does this look like? Nah, still this style that I don't want. Let's add a padding outside. Kind of feels like settings though. But I want to have this top thing. I don't know how to get that. This is definitely not sidebar. Anyways, I'm just going to start with this kind of view, and we're just going to fix it later. So, warning, the image doesn't show properly. Same here. They're also using this tag. Maybe that makes a difference. No difference. Okay. So for the size, I think we can go for 600, 400. I'll just go for 500 for now. We'll see what size makes most sense, and we might also change the size based on which item is selected. But now we have sidebar view, content view. Those are not the right ones. Instead, in this case, I actually do want to have an enum here. And that's the tabs, I would call them. So it's just a list of tabs. I'm just going to give them, let's just give them a string raw value, make them identifiable. So one case is going to be categories, and I will definitely have something called general setting, and for each I want to have a display name, which is going to be localized. I'm going to switch over self here and return general for now. And that's actually something that I want to fix now, because we want to localize everything, and we have set up body crouch, but it doesn't work via the script, but we can make it work via the script. That's, I think, the next thing I'm going to fix. But let's get these going first. So categories, and also we need to make sure that this complies to identifiable, and in this case I'm just going to return the raw value, which is unique. Great. Having this set up, we can go here, give the tag. Okay, we can use a tag in a second, but I think I'm just going to use a for each here. And I forgot to make the enum case iterable. But now in the for each, I should be able to just say setting state dot tab all cases. Now we have tab here, and for each tab we could say something like some view. So I need to provide a view for the tab. I guess I'm going to need a function, so private func tab view, providing the settings state dot tab. I'm just going to return some view. So this is not yet implemented. I will just fatal error, or just let's return. Let's just return this vstack kind of thing. With the name of the tab.displayName. Why is this not building? Function declares an opaque. This should be working. And then for each of them, we just call self.tabView for the tab. And on this, we can say like tab item, like here. Image still doesn't show, but we want to have an image also for each tab. So one more thing missing. And for that, we need to import sfsave symbols, and then we can say like display name and system symbol. Switch over self. For general, I'm just going to return gear, which looks something like that. For categories, I really don't know. Let's have a look at symbols. What is a good category symbol? Okay, category icon. Something like, okay, so we have something like a grid. Categories, let's just use this one here. So it's called rectangle grid 2x2. Rectangle grid 2x2. There we go. Now we can use the tabs system symbol and the tabs display name. We don't need these sidebar view and content views anymore. Let's also remove this code and see what this looks like. Doesn't build. Settings store ID must be declared public. Yeah, no problem. There we go. So we have our enum, general, and categories, and we have both of them here listed. I think we need to tag it also with a tab, so it's clear to SwiftUI what the data is behind that. And the white phone goose appeared. Let me try to catch that. So we have tagged it with the tab. And next I wanna also make this work with the selection. So when I bring this forward and we just have a look at this, currently when I click that, oh, it does change automatically. That's interesting. But it doesn't store the state anywhere. So actually what we wanna have is something like in our state here, we wanna have the selected tab. And at the beginning, it's going to be general tab. You could also put it here, soft or selected to general. But I think this is saving us some code. And we need an action then as well, which is tab selection changed. Selected tab. And in this case, we need to specifically say settings state.tab. Now in our reducer, we have to handle it. Tab selection changed. And we're just going to say state.selected tab equals selected tab. But how can we connect the tab view to the store? That's interesting. Let's see the overloads. Selection, there you go. Creates an instance that selects from content associated with a selected value. So this is what we need. So I'm just going to add a selection here. And this expects a binding. And we could do view store binding and connect everything together. But there is actually a simpler way that we learned, which is in our reducer, we can say binding. Then in our state, we need to provide that this is a bindable state. And this has to be a binding action, bindable action. An action type that exposes a binding case that holds a binding action. Bindable action. And last but not least, I think we did that already, so I think we have it somewhere. There we go. Bindable action. And then we have to provide binding action reflection state. Something like that. And that means I can just remove this and just say, like basically the same. Oh, okay, just say binding. And then binding action and then our state type, which is settings state. This should work. And in our reducer, we should no longer need to catch this explicitly. Instead, we just say in case of binding, and we're just going to do the same as in reflection reducer, where we are saying that in case of binding, we just break. Handled by the binding call below. Basically, that's what we're doing here. And the same for settings reducer as well. Let's just break like this. Okay. This was quite a bit of code, and this is not working yet because we have to connect it here. We have to say selection view store dot binding, and then we have to pass it the selected tab. Now it should build. And if I stop this and we refresh the preview and we run it like this, it should still work. But now we have basically the selected tab also in our state. And I'm seeing that our time is getting over, so this is basically what we wanted to do in this stream, and I think that's a good place to stop. Well, let's finish this up before I end the stream. Fungus has been caught by Jihad and Megan Wilson. Great. Okay, so what have we done? Let me just put them all here. So on the app focus timer level, we have added a main view and a settings view. Let me actually try out if the settings view works as expected. Oh, we have not connected the settings view yet. Yeah, we caught them. So I want to quickly connect the settings view here. And for that, I just have to settings. I have to first import it into our app. Everything that we directly link to in our app has to be imported here manually. But it's not going to be many views because that's just the window level that we need to import. Okay, so settings is imported. Let's import it to the file as well. And it wants us to order things. Let's do that like that. Cool. Settings view. Expects a store. Expects an initial state. Expects a reducer. And an environment. And it looks like we're always creating the same environment here, so I actually want to extract this into a helper function. Create AppEnv. So we can just say self the create AppEnv. Why is this not working? It's the body, it's private func. Cannot find AppEnv in scope. Ah. Okay, we do need to import one more thing, which is utility, I think. Let's do it on the app level as well. Utility. Now it should work. Store in environment self.create AppEnv. Same here. Self.create AppEnv. This should make it possible to put them all in one line, even. And I forgot to also adjust my Xcode preferences to 150, like we did in Swift format. Cool, this is looking good to me. This is looking good to me. Maybe this even fits entirely. Yeah, same here. Something is wrong here. Oh, it looks right. Okay, let's keep that as is. Cannot convert app entry point env. Ah, okay, in this case we need a different one. So let's reword that. Okay, here we want to initialize with self.createEvent and database seeder. Which one was it? Let's go back to, it was database seeder, just shared. Now it should initialize. I extracted it from the wrong place. Actually, it's just this thing here. Okay. And this is something we've just done. Refactor this, remove app endpoint. For later, make sure either only one of each window can be shown. That's also for later. Cool, let's see what this looks like now with the settings. Oh, we can remove this. Let me stop. Okay, let's see what it looks like. So this is our main window now, not much in here. This is our timer window. And now we also have our settings window. And now, okay, so in the preview, in the SwiftUI preview, it didn't work, but now we can actually see the icon at the top here and the selection works. And that's great. So we can see the title changes, the content changes, and the selection changes. I'm not sure if I want to have them so close to each other. Let's see what Xcode, what it looks like in Xcode. Yeah, they're also close to each other here as well. So that's fine then. And this is exactly the same style. Cool. So this does work. And for the main window, we're going to have a sidebar. I'm liking it. So we can, next time we can continue implementing here. And I just want to leave a comment there so we know where to continue. So this is the settings view. And the image doesn't show. It does show actually. Consider that it might just be one window. Change the name here. And that's a comment not for here. That's more a comment for the top level. Okay. This says yeah, this is looking all right. Let's see if we have any warnings. We have remove line warning here. Makes sense. Ordered imports here. Makes sense. Explicitly assigned their raw values. Ah, no, that's something that definitely that I want to turn off. I don't want to explicitly assign raw values to raw representable enums. And we don't actually have to open Atom. That's why we named it differently, right? Can directly edit it here. SwiftLint. And let's just remove this. Let's continue. Variable declaration whitespace. Lattimore should be separated from other statements by a blank line. There is a blank line. It's just this here that makes it. Okay. This is having too many false positives, it looks like. Let's turn that off as well. Or can we actually, let's go back to SwiftLint. Let's get to the rules. And look up if we can, no, there's nothing we can change in the configuration, so I have to completely turn it off. What else do we have as warnings? Line length. Should be 120. Why does it say 120? And focus time wrap. I have turned off line length. Something is going wrong with SwiftLint for sure. Sources, tests, open focus timer /app. Line length is turned off. I don't know what gives here. continue with others. Maybe I won't get that on the command line. But the warnings are fixed now too, and last but not least, I wanted to leave a comment in, but I can also leave a comment in here, in our session summary. Continue by implementing categories addition in settings. Add feature to create new categories, hardcode. Actually, that is already what's mentioned here. So basically, that's it. Show main feature and implement sidebar and tab bar based on main screen. That's basically what we've done. And that's what we're going to commit right now. So settings utility are linked. This is removed. These are removed. These are turned off. Cool. So create new settings screen with tabs, stopped tabs. What else have we done? Plus link in main app. A bounce suite appear. Let me catch. Okay, that's our commit. That's our last summary entry. I didn't really run into any problems, to be honest. And learnings, I think we didn't have any new, but this is what we're going to continue with next time, and this is our session summary. So we started with preventing GitHub from being generated, from counting generated and third-party code stats. Then we set up Swift format, we set up SwiftLint, we fixed all SwiftLint warnings, and there were many. Then we linked the main feature to the as a window to the app. We implemented the basic sidebar with the main content view for the main feature. We created a new settings screen with stopped tabs plus linked it in main app. And we're going to continue with adding a feature to create new categories next time on that settings screen. And that wraps up our stream for today. So let me quickly have these short reminders that, let me just open it that way. So if you don't follow me on Medium yet, I am currently writing the second part of streaming open source development on Twitch. This was, the first part was about hardware and motivation. The second part is about my software that I'm using and all the settings I have there, and some more tips. So I'm already quite close to finishing this, so expect this to be released, the new article to be published sometime till tomorrow or something like that. So watch out for that. Then always check out my Twitter, where I'm always announcing new stuff, sharing my learnings. Make sure to follow me there as well. It's twitter.com/jihad. So let me actually share this link specifically, because I think on Twitter, like between my streams, that's where you can actually connect with me. And don't forget that I also have a channel on YouTube. It's called Flying Dev, and I'm basically uploading right now my streams cut together without the breaks. And I'm planning to cut more videos in the future, and I have started doing some first work there. So that as a reminder. And now let me quickly have a look if there's anybody we can rate. Let me just refresh the screen. So I don't see anybody coding that we could rate, so no rates today. Yeah, having that said, thank you very much for everyone who joined, everyone who followed. I hope you had some great time, and I'll be back next week on Friday again. Because of the Ramadan month, I'm just streaming on my afternoon streams, but once that's over, which is going to be in 2 or 3 weeks, then I'm going to be having a morning stream on Fridays as well, starting at 11 Central European time. So thank you for your time. If you watch this on YouTube, don't forget to like the video. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Goodbye.